Hi everyone, this is Sam with the Wine News in 5. In my opinion, our site published one of the biggest news stories this week. Jose Vuillamo, co-author of Wine Grapes alongside Jancis and Julia, penned a piece on the discovery that Turkey's Colorco is genetically the same as Hungary's Ferment. He goes into the history of how this variety may have ended up in Turkey and, due to some pushback on the piece, further defends the grape's Hungarian origins on our forum. Please don't miss this. It packs a lot of information into a relatively short article and it's free to read. We also published a brilliant opinion piece from Robert Camuto on the need for a new social contract for wine. He makes an argument for the world needing fewer icon wines and more good wines, what that means, and how sustainability, moderation, and transparency are all necessary ingredients. Again, short, informative, brilliant, and free for all. In terms of global news beyond our site, today I'll discuss floods in Spain and Portugal, floods and landslides in southern Italy, the closing of Monarch Tractor, a trade deal for China and South Africa, French wine and spirits exports falling to their lowest level in 25 years, budbreak in California, and a legal case in Australia. First up, flooding in Spain and Portugal. Portugal and southern Spain have been hit by a succession of storms in the last few weeks. Storm Kristen arrived on January 28th, followed by Storm Leonardo on February 5th, Storm Marta on February 7th, and Storm Niels on February 11th. 11,000 people have had to evacuate their homes in Spain's southern Andalusia region due to flooding. More than half a dozen people have died. In Portugal, the torrential rains and winds are estimated to have caused 750 million euros worth of damage to agriculture and forestry. Brussels Morning newspaper reports that in Spain and Portugal, olives, citrus fruit, vegetables, and vineyards have been among the hardest hit crops. Agricultural infrastructure and machinery have also been destroyed. If you have news on specific wineries that have been affected, please email me at news@chancisrobinson.com. Next, floods and landslides in southern Italy. On January 20th, Cyclone Harry tore into southern Italy. Torrential rains pummeled Sicily, Sardinia, and Calabria, causing an estimated 1 billion euros worth of damage, which is 1.19 billion USD, and prompting the Italian government to declare a state of emergency on January 26th. In Sicily, a landslide left the town of Nisemi sitting on the edge of a 4-kilometer long, 6.3 mile long chasm with cars, roads, and buildings collapsing into it. On the coasts of Sicily, Sardinia, and Calabria, waves reached 30 feet, 9 meters high. While we have yet to hear anything from wine growers in these areas, Reuters quotes the regional administration of Calabria saying that there has been major damage to agricultural business with serious repercussions for the rural economy. Crowd Farming, a farm-to-consumer platform, aka community-supported agriculture, posted photos of flooded fields in Sicily on Facebook. Once again, if you have reports of vineyards damaged, please email me. On to the closing of Monarch Tractor. Back in 2018, Rain Winery owner and operator Carlo Mondavi co-founded Monarch Tractor to launch the world's first fully electric, driver-optional smart tractor. After a slew of issues, including but not limited to customer complaints that the tractor launched without full functionality, I've had multiple wineries tell me in the last 2 years that they might as well have bought a John Deere Gator, which is a type of utility vehicle without the ability to till, lift, or mow. A lawsuit with the dealership last November after a tractor failed to operate autonomously, and massive layoffs at the end of last year. Wine Business announced on February 9th that the company would be closing and selling off all inventory. I hope one of the many other companies working on launching electric autonomous tractors will have better results. Next, a trade deal for China and South Africa. On February 6th, China and South Africa signed an agreement under which South African goods imported into China will be subject to 0 tariffs. South Africa is the 33rd African country to sign such an agreement. China has similar agreements with Australia, New Zealand, Chile, and Georgia, and plans to sign agreements with another 20 African countries. This means that all South African wine imported into China will be tariff-free. Wines are still subject to a 10% consumption tax and 13% value-added tax. On to French wine and spirits exports falling to their lowest level in 25 years. The FEVS, the primary trade association for French wine and spirits exporters, recently reported that 2025 saw the lowest exports for wine and spirits this century. Volumes dropped 3% over 2024 to 168 million cases. Values dropped 8% over 2024 to 14.3 billion euros. These drops are attributed to US tariffs, the rise in value of the euro compared with the US dollar, and Chinese anti-dumping legislation that's hit cognac and Armagnac particularly hard. Next, budbreak in California. Due to an incredibly warm winter on the West Coast, some regions of California are experiencing unseasonably early budbreak. Wine Business reports that Pocket Highlands Vineyard in the Alexander Valley AVA in Sonoma was at 80% budbreak for Chardonnay on January 20th. A vineyard in the Rockpile AVA, also in Sonoma, was at 15%. While this is by no means a full picture, it's still fairly concerning. On to a legal case in Australia. On February 9th, the Australian Wine Research Institute and Australia Grape and Wine were brought in front of the Federal Circuit and Family Court of Australia to defend themselves against accusations of copyright infringement. Dr. Irina Santiago-Brown, head winemaker and viticulturist at Inkwell Wines in McLaurin Vale, accuses the AWRI and AGW of taking work she did during her PhD and adapting it without her consent and without credit to develop a national sustainability program, Sustainable Wine Growing Australia. The hearing for this lawsuit is expected to take 3 weeks. Stay tuned. Finally, a quick shout out to Andrew Jefford for winning this year's Lifetime Achievement Award from the Institute of Masters of Wine. Huge congratulations. That's all for this episode of the Wine News. If you enjoy this newscast and you'd like to see it continue, please become a member of jancesrobinson.com. And if you have breaking news in your area, please email me at news@jancesrobinson.com. Thank you.